people are in the room. I do not see any names or anything like that. So please bear in mind that I'm kind of speaking to a wall right here. I'm speaking to a wall in Munich, Germany, where I escaped during the pandemic from New York. So all that, setting aside that is awkward, I'm looking forward to being able to present this to you, to give you a feeling about what to expect, and to hopefully have everyone sign up and learn something in this class. So first of all, thank you, Evangeline, for this great introduction, for letting everyone know what playcrafting can do. And before or while talking about who I am, how I do my work, what I do, it kind of all of it ties into what playcrafting does. I'll get to that in a second. So first of all, I'm a lawyer and the founder of Koburger Law. I'm a German lawyer and a New York-based lawyer where I represent just very generally, most of my clients are video game developers, indie publishers, and other folks of service providers of the video game industry. I also represent, beyond that, just generally businesses between the EU and between the US that need counseling. But most importantly, my focus lies on the video game industry. I came to New York 5 years ago, or a bit more than that, with the idea of becoming a lawyer in the US and with the idea of becoming actually a lawyer for video game developers. Before that, I represented at a big law firm in Germany. I represented movie production companies, in particular independent movie production companies. Now I'll get to the playcrafting thing, which is one of my favorite stories. I wanted to be a lawyer for video game developers, had literally no clue how to do that. I decided the only way to do this is to do it the American way. Coming from Germany, that was totally alien to me. I said, I just have to reach out to everyone. So what I did was I reached out to literally everyone, to lawyers and so forth. I didn't reach out to, and you see it on the slide, on the PowerPoint slide here, Chris Reed, who was my first boss in New York. I didn't find that gentleman via the internet, but I did stand in line for an expo of playcrafting at the Microsoft Center. Standing in line, a lady in front of me had Chris walk by him, who I didn't know, and she said to a friend in front of her in the line, said, "You have to meet my indie lawyer." Pulled him out and started talking to him. So then I addressed that same thing to Chris, and I was like, wow, you're a lawyer in this space. So lo and behold, my career started as an indie lawyer for video game developers, started with playcrafting in that line at the Microsoft Center. So that was my start. I worked for Chris Reed for nearly 2 years, who had his own practice, now represents Tilting Point in New York. I would encourage everyone to watch his videos. It's just a little side note here. Encourage everyone, if you want what I'm going to give you now as well, in a really condensed fashion, watch his GDC talks. They're amazing. And also because I helped him prepare all of these. I worked for Chris Reed for 2 years, representing indie game developers in Europe, in the US, on everything that they need to know. And then when he moved to Tilting Point, I formed my own law firm representing indie game developers on everything essentially that they need to know, from, and this is what also our presentation will be about, from how you start your own company, when you leave a publisher or a developer, or you're coming straight out of school, or you're just shifting jobs, all the way to releasing your game and how to make sure to actually run your company properly. That's essentially what I'm about. I have my offices in New York and in Munich. I would represent indie developers all around the world. That's what it is. So, oh, we have notable clients on here. Thank you, Playcrafting. Some of you may not know these folks. This is one snippet of examples. I try to get a good catch of everything. You may know Well Food Games, Moving Pieces, Stuido, or even Red Hook. In any case, classic clients of mine. Oh, most importantly, why should you take this course. Well, my associate, Jen, when she looked at the presentation, said, and pardon my French, and don't take this too personally, she said, "You don't know shit." That is essentially true. In the same way, I don't know anything about game design and coding to the extent that you don't know anything about the law. That's why you should take this course. If I were to develop a video game, I should definitely take play crafting courses. Just because you speak the English language doesn't mean you can negotiate a contract. Just because I understand the hierarchy and the causation behind a code, or I know how to tell a story, or I know how to whistle a song, it doesn't mean I can develop a game. I would also go to experts. That's the first reason you should get insights from the people that actually know what's going on. The other reason is that's as Captain Buzz Lightyear says, the law is everywhere. The law is reflective of what we do in society. Anything that you do is going to be regulated in some kind of way. And if you don't want your efforts to be jeopardized because you don't understand the law, this is a good reason to take the course. And at the end of the day, you are going to be a competitor on the market with a lot of other folks that make indie games. Now, you want to be great friends with them, and that's, of course, all our goal. But at the end of the day, you get measured by the metrics of sales. So you will have competitors. I hope to be able to give you a head start with this course. So in a bit more detail, I want to say one thing briefly before I go into detail. If you have a specific question that goes right to some kind of content, I'm going to give you the opportunity to voice that question, and Evangeline will make notes of that after this slide and after the next slide. If you don't want to voice it right away, feel free at the end. We will have some time to discuss that. So the course, as Evangeline in the beginning already addressed, will be a 3-day mini course, which will walk you through a legal roadmap for from game design document to all the way to selling and actually running a proper business. The idea behind this is that you get a feeling for from a perspective of developing your game, not from a perspective of what law is out there, because that's boring. Like, there's a lot of law out there and I could talk hours about it and you wouldn't make any sense out of it. Maybe not even most lawyers would. The important thing is for you to know is, when is there something that you have to worry about? When is there something that when you have to take action? And what is exactly what you should be doing? Yeah. So looking at the steps that an indie studio takes, and when is there something important, what is important about it, and what should you literally never forget? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm going to give you 3 days of each 2 hours. There's going to be stuff that you forget. That's normal. But there's going to be stuff that you absolutely must remember. And my goal is that you remember that when you start developing your game, start selling it, and start running your company. You will leave this course a better business person. The goal is, as I said, is to design this along a roadmap of from having an idea to setting up a game design document, to hiring people, to bringing in investment through either doing development contracts with board game companies that want to bring their game to some kind of surface platform, or seeking investment from a publisher, to actually releasing the game, to managing your community. All these things, they may be legal, but they're also entirely related to the business cycle of your company, of developing a game, of releasing it, making sure that you actually know what you're doing, you don't jeopardize your efforts. So while I'll be talking law, I will hopefully be able to make you and everyone else aware that this is also a business that you're running. And if you know what to do, you'll probably run a better business. So in a bit more detail, and I'm rushing through this. So if anyone has any question, Evangeline, did anything come up that we could address right now before I just run through this?
No, not yet.
Mm-hmm. All right. So regarding the course itself, so Well, my first thing about this is, and Evangeline and I talked about this a little bit, is I will be talking a lot of. I will try to make it as funny as possible, of course, and about entertaining and educational. But at the end of the day, this is going to be very dense content to some extent. So we decided to split this up in 3 days, each 2 hours, which is still a lot. But we'll have a 3-day course. The first day being basically a top level introduction. I won't be going into great detail. There may be questions unanswered after the day, but I will try to make sure that if you only have the time for day one, or if day 2 and 3 are too difficult, you at least know, okay, if I finish school, if I leave AAA, if I go from Twitter to making games, that I kind of know what to do. At least I have a roadmap, I have steps. This is what day 1 is going to be. There's not going to be much detail. We're going to talk a lot about just, war stories, what has happened, what can go wrong. Make sure to consider all these steps. Hopefully I will be able to entertain you to some extent, to make sure that you understand you're not the only one out there. There are other people that have had issues with this, and this is where they had them. Don't worry 3 months in advance, and once you've crossed that point, they're probably not going to occur anymore. They're not going to tell you how do I negotiate a contractor agreement? What's the issue about copyright? How do I deal with a player that's complaining? All these things, that's not going to happen on day 1. It's going to be giving you a roadmap. So day 2 and day 3 will be, let's say that will be like where the real hard work is done. If you are already very well versed in running a company, know how to, you've released 2-3 games, you probably, unless you're in for some fun, skip day 1. You can go to day 2, day 3 immediately, because that's where we really get to know how the sausage is made. Day 2 will be a part in your timeline when you're developing a game. And again, I'm going back to this roadmap, and I try to really focus on that, is you have an idea, you've probably found a company, you have a couple of folks together, and you decide that you need people to create content for you. You need contractors, you need employees, you need to sign NDAs because you're negotiating with a publisher. You have all these contracts suddenly in place, or you're doing development work for a third party, or even you end up signing a publishing agreement. Well, all these topics I will hopefully be able to address just in the small part that is called contracts here. I won't only address, however, just contracts in general and all these individual parts. I will also address just, so what is a contract? What does it mean for me? What are just the general things I always have to be aware of? And hopefully be able to guide you through all these steps, because you will be encountering a lot of contracts, and they will be long and they will be annoying. Well, part of developing and releasing a game is also making sure that your relationship with the consumers, be it your community, be it the players, is up to par to your own expectation of your marketing, but also up to par to generally consumer protection laws and other types of regulation out there. So we're talking about, well, how can I advertise my game? What can I claim if I'm doing a Kickstarter? Can I claim that a player will get a certain type of game product at the end of the Kickstarter? How should I exactly phrase that? How do I do a sweepstakes or a contest on Twitter? All these questions relate to consumer protection laws. Further, there are also the questions about, well, you may be doing a free-to-play, you may have a newsletter, you may have certain tools to do your marketing, to do your sales, to just play your game, that will end up collecting data from consumers. Well, then there's a lot of regulation out there. What do you do? Do you have a privacy policy in place? Do you assess the risk for the consumer? All these questions I hope to answer on the community management and consumer protection. This is going to be quite in depth and hopefully get you an understanding for your B2B and your B2C relations. Day 3 will address what your game is about. your game is essentially the value and the content is intellectual property. So there's a lot there, and there is in particular a lot of myth there. We will be addressing copyright, of course. We'll be addressing trademark. We'll be addressing right of publicity. We'll be addressing trade secrets. And at the end of the day, they're not so important patents. I want to talk to you about what is it actually? Because as I said, there are a lot of myths out there. Like, what is copyright? Yeah. What's the difference to trademark? Why do I need a copyright? What's the power of it? Yeah. And also what it's not. Then I want to talk to you about is how do you actually use it? Like, okay, awesome, I've got it. You know, I've made something in Unity. I've got this awesome character. I did a concept art, whatever it is. Well, how do I actually use this? How do I make sure that it's protected? How do I make sure that it's protected throughout all the agreements, the contracts that I was addressing before? And also, if I do make some content, if I do make a game, how do I make sure that I'm actually not using someone else's content? Yeah. And then at the end of the day, we will also just address some classic myths, some classic risks that copyright has. The same thing we will be doing with trademark. We'll walk through the same kind of perspective on that. And then at the end of the day, we will also try and address the more ancillary peripheral topics like patent, trade secret, and right of publicity, which are important, but they aren't the most important. And the other side of the coin to intellectual property and what you own, what you have, what you cannot use are content restrictions. We're talking about rating agencies. We're talking about loot boxes. We're talking about virtual currency, secondary markets. When you design your game and you draft, for example, an end user license agreement and you create your community management, your outreach, your marketing, you have to be aware that you're raising expectations. And these expectations to your content will lead to some compliance through how you design your game. And loot boxes is one of the examples. Whether or not you like them, it is a question that we have to ask ourselves and something that we have to deal with. Same thing goes to using in-game tokens, virtual currency, free to play, what data can I collect, and so forth. All this, I hope to be able to address and give you some guidance on when you make your game, what is that you have to be aware of, what can you use, what can you not use. At the end of the day, hope that all of this will not only give you an understanding of the legal issues that you will encounter, but also create a framework of when is it that you have to care about it and what is really important to you in your game studio to give you an understanding of running a business from also a legal perspective. So regarding the details, Evangeline, I'm just going to go forward with this unless you gonna just cut me off and tell me this is
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
all right, perfect. Apologies to everyone who's listening. I like to ramble off. I hope I answered at least some questions / provided for expectation. And talking about the details. So that is, I think in 2 weeks time, Tuesday, on the 8th, 10th, and 15th of September. It's going to be 2 hours in a bit more detail about not the content, but how I want to run this. I think 2 hours are still a great chunk of information. I mean, you've listened now, let's say, not even half an hour. I wasn't in front of you. This is a webinar. It's not always the easiest to listen to, though I do think we can actually really make this work. I think the way we can make this work is that there is some form of interaction. I will try to take breaks after all the different topics that we have. And because the law is so case by case and all of you have that one question that you're dying to ask, I will try to make this interactive and allow questions more frequently than just half an hour at the end when maybe someone has fallen asleep. And this is not a criticism to me, that's just reality because I'm talking about the law. And have a lot of interaction. I will have a break in the middle. And at the end, I will also have, let's say, quote unquote, like a beer with everyone, and we'll just have an open conversation. Try to keep it as interactive as possible. That said, I am already now encouraging everyone to have their video on, to really use the chat. I will have I think they call this in US undergrad school, like a TA. One of my associates will be there. She'll make sure that all the questions are noted, that we actually address all of them. And yeah, and if I don't address all the questions, some come up at a later time, there'll be my email. I will be in New York as of next week again. If there ever is an end to Corona, maybe we can actually all meet up at a play crafting event. That's, I think, it from me. Evangeline, are there specific questions addressed to me?
Not as of yet, but I do want to just bring up this slide. So the cost is $180 for the course. That's 3 days, 2 hours each, and all of the, all the knowledge and information that you get. Something that Daniel did mention on the previous slide was just how the class is set up. So right now, you all cannot, we all can't see you. When you join the class, you will be in the room with us. So everyone will be encouraged to come on camera. Obviously, you don't have to speak through chat. You will be able to talk to one another. So that interaction will be available, even though it is online. The other thing too is, so I mentioned it's $180 for the 3 classes. You can enroll with these links listed here. If you just have any other questions regarding the course, just reach out to events@playcrafting, and I'll get those answered for you, whether it's regarding the curriculum or just the logistics of the actual course and the classes that are occurring. The other thing I wanted to say too is each class will be recorded afterwards, so you will have access to view it. So that's the other beauty of these online classes is, if you happen to come in late, maybe you can't attend because something came up, you will be able to catch up by just viewing the class, and it will be available for you only, for the people enrolled only to view. So that's nice. I actually had someone ask, because they're enrolled in another playcrafting course and one of the class dates interfere, and so they're able to take both because both of them will be recorded, and so you can just watch it whenever you want. It's also a great way to rewatch if you need to go back and reference anything. So yeah, that's it for the logistics, I think. Just a note, we held a version of this, not the exact version, but we held like a beginner intro to game law a few weeks back, like a month or so, maybe a month, 6 weeks back. And it was very popular. A lot of people attended, and they all really, really loved the class, and they really liked Daniel, you as an instructor. So just to help me complimenting you.
I wasn't wearing a shirt when I was doing that, and just kidding, no, just kidding. Thank you so much, Evangeline.
Yeah, the feedback we got, I think we had like 30 people attend that beginner class, and they all loved it. And they said, if this goes on, if there's another class that we do surrounding game law, it's something that they would want to enroll in. What Daniel said earlier about people not knowing anything is very true. Contracts, it goes beyond game development. Any sort of business, any sort of, in any work scenario, you always have to deal with contracts and legal advice and things of that sort. So this is very relevant for people in the gaming industry. The other thing too is we focused on people, wanting to create their own business, maybe people who are starting their own studios, but something that was mentioned is folks who are also just freelancing, playcrafting ourselves. We have these partnerships with different brands and corporations, and we hire developers to come on and make games for these partners that we have. And it's important for these developers to know their rights, and we recognize that. And the folks who actually inquire and have additional questions regards to the contracts that they're signing and who owns what at the end of the day, that's all very important, and it's good for you to always be aware of that when you're doing when you're hired to do work for other people, especially from these larger companies. So yeah, that's
Right.
pretty much it. Oh
mm,
yeah, go ahead.
I forgot to say something. Well, thanks so much, Evangeline. The way you're presenting that already, I mean, you should be giving at least part of my introduction there. That was great. So one thing to note is, well, actually two things. They tie into each other. The first one is the goal also of this course is to make this. I mean, the law is scary. Really going out there and holding your name out to a title and risking scrutiny and all that stuff. That's all scary. Yeah. My goal is to some extent to make sure that it isn't as scary as it may seem. Yeah. And like if something really ever happens, like find the right lawyer to represent you to handle that. But until then, there should be some confidence in what you're doing. So that's one part of the goal. The other part is like, don't be scared. I'm not going to give you any homework. I think Evangeline said that in the beginning to me that, I should also address that topic. I will have course material, but the course material is more a summary because I don't want you of the course because I don't want you to end up sitting there and making all these notes. I did 1 year law school in the US, and I don't know if this is in any other school in the US, but people were just hacking away at the laptop. And I always thought, that's a shame. No one's actually really listening. So I need you to actually listen and pay attention to what I'm saying. And then you will get course material that will actually, it won't be as comprehensive, of course, as what I'm saying. And you will also get, you'll have the videos and everything. The important part is there won't be any homework, but you will get some course material. Thank you.
I did point out if anyone had questions about the course, about the content, either email events@playcrafting or you can ask in the chat. Something I kind of wanted to interrupt when Daniel was presenting in the notable clients. There was one notable client. They recently released a game on Apple Arcade and Nintendo Switch, and they actually, so Moving Pieces right here on this slide, Moving Pieces. The people who founded that studio actually met from a Unity course that we hosted like a few years ago, and they really vibed together, and they ended up creating this indie studio, and they developed this game, Dodo Peak, and it was released on Apple Arcade and recently released on the Nintendo Switch. They were also at the NYC a couple weeks ago. So also one thing to note is joining these courses, being a part of the playcrafting community can definitely benefit you in the future. I'm not saying everyone who signs up is going to release a game on the Nintendo Switch, but you make the experience, you decide what you make the experience to be. If you interact with a lot of people and you develop those relationships and you network, then something can potentially happen from that. A lot of these partnerships and these people, they meet because of the playcrafting community. And when you sign up for the course, you essentially become a part of the playcrafting community. So that's another important thing to remember.
I have to add something to this because it's a great story with Moving Pieces and Patrick and James. It gets even better if I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Angeline, but Stuido, the left top corner of the clients, and Rob and the late Jose Zambrano were teachers at Playcrafting who taught James and Patrick of Moving Pieces. So Studio taught them, and then they went on to do that. I just love that connection in some way. And I think Airplane Mode, well, at least they got some awards, but I think they went to the NYU Game Center, Whale Food Games, I'm not sure. But yeah, there are a couple of folks there. Red Hook is Canada, of course, and Unspeakable Pixels is a tiny indie, great guy, French guy, but he lives in California. But anyways, yeah, Playcrafting is definitely a pretty awesome community. And I also basically got my job through the work I do now through Playcrafting by standing and waiting in a way too long line at the Microsoft Center.
Yeah, hopefully we can, I don't know if we'll be back at the Microsoft Center anytime soon.
It's true.
But yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much the gist of the course, and we hope you can join. This info session will be up on YouTube soon, so if you need to refer to it and make your decision, you know, that's a couple weeks from now, but you know, you should sign up as soon as you can, and because that gives us a better idea of how many people will be, and Daniel can plan accordingly. Because if we end up having like 40 people in the room, that might be a lot. So we'll figure it out. But yeah, we hope you can join. If you have any questions that come up later, you know, feel free to email events@playcrafting.com and we will get those answered. Yeah, I think that's it. Do you have anything else you want to say, Daniel? I had a question here, but we answered it earlier just in our general talk. And
Okay, great. No, I'm not sure. Well, one last word of encouragement, like if you do sign up and if you do attend, hold me to my promise that I want to make this more interactive. I've been giving a lot of presentations via webinars this year, by the nature of the situation, and they aren't as easy as in person, but they're definitely possible to make them really cool. And I'm super encouraging you guys to actually tell me to stick to what I said. Yeah, I think that was it on my side. You guys have a great day. I'm going to take a nap now because it's 1:45 here, and hope to see you around in 2 weeks.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye.
Take care. Bye. Well.